My name is Heidi Waterhouse, and I'm here to talk to you about writing your speaker biography. When you're looking at a conference submission, which we frequently call CFP, even though it's not a call for a paper, uh, one of the things that everybody wants is your biography, your bio. And I found that people are really locked up on writing these because it's a thing that we don't have to do very often, and it hits a lot of psychological triggers for us. So, speaker biographies. This is how a speaker biography is going to end up looking on a conference website. This one happens to be from DeliveryConf, but it's pretty much going to be like this all the time. There's a picture, there's a few sentences about you, there's what you're going to talk about. Those few sentences really matter to getting people to come to your talk and getting your talk accepted by conference organizers. If you are not using that one paragraph to give people an idea of what they're going to get, they're less likely to come to your talk, because none of us likes to invest our time in something that we don't have any faith in. So while I'm saying bios are relatively straightforward to write, I do want you to understand, I think they're really important. And if they're bad, they can totally sink your conference proposal, even if you have a really cool idea. So mine says, Heidi is a developer advocate with LaunchDarkly. That's who I work for. She delights in working at the intersection of usability, risk reduction, and cutting-edge technology. That's really what I'm doing. One of my favorite hobbies is talking to developers about things they already knew but had never thought of that way before. That's the sentence that I use to say, this is why you should come to my talk. I'm going to make you think about something that you think you know, but in a different way. And then finally, she sews all her conference dresses so that she's sure there's a pocket for the mic. Because if you haven't been up on stage with an AV crew, the lavalier mics have a little, it's not little, it's about this big, battery pack. And if you are wearing a dress or something else, it's hard to attach it to your clothes. And so women frequently face this problem when they start speaking. It's like, where do I put the mic pack? And the answer for the AV crew is down the back of your dress attached to your bra strap. If you don't want that, you're going to need to have something that has pockets or a belt. So those are the 4 sentences in my bio. I wrote this bio once. I've used it probably 300 times. You don't have to rewrite it. It's not like the unique problem that Leon was talking about. Like, you don't have to do everything all over every time. Leon did, and I admire and respect him, but I'm going to pick on him because he knows I like him. Leon did a slide that said, this is who I am. I really don't like those slides. I feel like, and this is the one that my graphic designer created for the templates for my company. I feel like stopping to talk about who you are when you get into a talk is sort of irrelevant. Either I'm going to talk about something that the audience wants to hear about, or I'm not. And citing why I'm the right person to talk about it in this moment is not as engaging as telling a story. So when I do this, I try and remember that the first thing I want to do is tell a story. And if I'm going to put a bio slide in, it goes after the story slides. Speaker bios are super hard. They are not easy to write. I have written a lot for friends because it turns out it's much easier to write them for somebody else. But writing them for yourself is very difficult. So there are a finite number of sentences that go into this. Usually there's a word or character length restriction. And I've just crafted a bio that fits under almost all of them. So the first sentence that you're going to put in your bio is, what is your name? And who do you work for? Who are you on LinkedIn? Like, what is your professional identity? And that one's pretty easy. This is like a gimme. We're going to get you started easy. Who are you? What's your job title? Who do you work for? The next one is about your expertise. Why are you the one who is going to give a talk? Why are you the person who knows things about this? And that one's harder to write because you have to sort of dig in and ask yourself multiple why questions. Like the first why question is because I got the talk accepted. But the second why question is why did you get the talk accepted? Well, because people want to hear about serverless. Okay, why am I the one to talk about serverless? Because I have this unique insight. Okay, so then you've drilled into what you're doing and why it's meaningful. Third sentence is optional. I put it in, but if it's really locking you up, you don't need to. Why are you saying what you're saying at this event? Sometimes it's really relevant what event you're talking at. I have some events that I will write a unique talk for because they are so different from everything else that I do. And in that case, I'll probably add something to my bio about how much I like this conference and this event and how meaningful it is for me to be here, so that other people who find a lot of meaning in this event are engaged and understand that I really care about this particular instance. And then finally, and this is where you get to be funny, a humanizing hook. The last sentence that I put in all of my bios is not necessarily about dresses with pockets, but it's something that's not about technology. You frequently see this in author bios, where they talk about all their previous publications, and then they're like, she lives in Massachusetts with a tribe of feral corgis. Whatever it is, it's something that makes people remember you're not just like a corporate drone, but are in fact somebody who's doing something meaningful while being human. And I think it's very hard when we're anxious to do a good job of expressing our humanity. Like our instinct is to sort of armor up and be extremely professional. And I'm not saying professionalism is bad. I think it's important. But I also think it doesn't give people a lot of attachment points where they can relate to you. If you instead are professional and a little human, if you're a little funny, if you're a little wry, if funny isn't your thing, if you're like earnest, then you can say, so-and-so has been earnest about how to do change management for 40 years. Okay, that seems great. Something that makes you seem like a human. That's the last sentence. So you're probably all sitting there thinking, okay, but that's really hard. And I realize it's only 4 sentences and one of them is super easy and one of them is optional, but those 2 sentences are really hard. And I have literally spent like an entire day trying to get this right. And everything I do feels really awkward when I try and say it out loud. There are a couple of reasons. First, it's really hard to be nice about ourselves. Most of us have been socialized not to brag, not to be proud, not to be arrogant, not to, in America we say, not to puff ourselves up. And it's a hard thing to overcome that training. It is, and you need to know this, especially difficult for people who are underrepresented in technology, because they have already spent a lot of time getting told that they are not quite as good, because if they were, they would be getting equal opportunities. And especially people who are socialized as women get taught more about modesty and being quiet about their achievements. And so there's a lot of psychological, cultural training to overcome. And I think it's real. We have to say, it's hard to say nice things about myself. One of the things that I do to deal with this is I have a journal and I write one nice thing that I did every day. Like not one nice action, but like one compliment to myself. And there are days when I sit there for like 10 minutes thinking, okay, what do I like about myself today? Not what did I accomplish, but what do I like about myself? And if you get in the habit of saying nice things about yourself, it gets easier to do this. But that's like a long-term project. For now, I think the easiest way to do this is to gather together some friends who love you and write each other's bios, because that works super well and it's kind of fun. You're going to say, okay, everybody, we're working on second sentences for, Ole, and everybody write a nice thing about what's going on. And then you can combine some of these sentences together to make something that's going to work in a bio. But you don't have to have done it yourself. Plus, you get to say nice things about your friends. What do I even say? Like, okay, I understand that I need to do this, but I don't know what I'm supposed to be saying. What is too much? Like, I know that there's an upper limit for how much bio I should write. What is too little? I think the answer for that is you should write at least 2/3 of the limit. That's like what is how much I should write. But what do I say is a little harder. And sometimes if I'm trying to do this for a conference proposal, I go back to the proposal. I'm like, why did I write this talk or propose this talk? Pro tip, I never write talks before they get accepted somewhere. There's like an outline and that's it. And if a talk never gets accepted, it never gets written. But like, why do I want to give this talk? Almost all of my talks start with, I am angry about something. By the time I get to presenting them, I'm mostly not angry about them anymore. And I have some solutions and I've worked out ideas and it works out okay. But the genesis of almost all of my talks is, gosh darn it, people should be better. People should do better about this. My breakout talk, the one that sort of gave me the permission to travel the world and give it, was about 7 things that we do wrong in product development that we could be doing better, including like lack of documentation and lack of APIs and lack of localization. And it was all things that I'd seen in my career that had made me angry. So when I wrote that very early bio, I didn't say I'm angry about the way that we're making software, but I did say I'd spent a decade feeling like we were missing obvious problems. So like, Heidi is a technical writer at so-and-so. She has spent a decade noticing patterns of product problems. And that was part of my bio because I didn't know what else to write at that point. I was like, I don't know what to say. So I went back to the talk and figured out what was driving my motivation to speak. So the other thing that you're going to get asked for when somebody says, I want a bio from you, is a picture. It's really hard. You can do it as a selfie, but I really wouldn't suggest it. I actually, a picture that I use a lot is one I got from an airport photo booth that specialized in headshots. What you want in a conference picture is that your face be clearly identifiable, because sometimes people have been to a talk of yours, but don't remember your name, but do remember your face and would like to go to another one. Also, it helps people when they walk into a room to know that they're in the right place, if that's the speaker that's standing up there. It's very tempting, I think, especially for people whose faces are sort of, I'm trying to figure out how to say this politely. It's very tempting for white dudes to be sort of flip about this. They're like, it doesn't matter what I look like. And then you get all sorts of artsy, like light and shadows pictures. And that's not actually helpful for the purpose of this, which is to say, as a conference goer, I'm looking to see who's giving a talk. I want to know that I'm going to the right talk. And sometimes I would like to go to a talk by someone who looks like me. And that's an important skill, to be able to say, okay, this is what my conference photo looks like. It's just a headshot. You wouldn't think it'd be that complicated. And yet I see so many bad ones. There are so many bad ones. And there are so many bad bios. And it really is a whole different talk, like what makes a bio and a pitch bad. And I don't want to make you all like nervous and self-conscious. That's kind of like a 201 level conversation. But I do want to say to you that I want you to be friendly and approachable and human, because the reason people go to talks is because that's what they want. They want their technology from a human, not just a computer. So if this was too long and you read Twitter instead, I really like summary slides. Your bio matters, but you only have to write it once. And then when you change jobs, you can update it a bit. When you change the entire focus of your career, you might have to change another sentence, but you really only have to do this once. And get the people who like you to help out, both with writing your bio and with taking your bio picture. So thank you for your time, and I'm going to hand it back.
Thank you, Heidi. I just thought that we really need to think about preparing the biographies for all our speakers on the April events, because I feel like we kind of missing this. Well, I have a question from the other side of the screen. As a person who was organizing a lot of events, what if the organizers ask you to send the biography in some format which you don't really like? You know, this big boring texts which nobody gonna read, this kind of stuff.
Oh, I don't get that much. The first thing I do is play dumb and send back my regular bio. And they're like, oh, I guess I get more column inches, and the next thing I do is I do have a longer version that I've sort of compiled over the years that I keep on LinkedIn, because that's the place where somebody is particularly interested in my work history. And so if what the organizer wants is my work history, I guess I can give it to them, but I don't think it's really useful. If it's an organizer I know at least a little bit, I'll push back and say, like, are you doing this for a reason, or is this just like a spinal reflex?